Welcome back. Now, the unbanning of the ANC in 1990 symbolized a new dawn and, of course, a new era of equality, liberty and justice, as well as promises of a better life for all. But over the years, the party has had to deal with many challenges, including corruption, internal factions, and, of course, the decline in electoral support. Now, in the hope of gaining more supporters and the public's trust ahead of the 2026 local government elections, the ANC leaders have been engaging communities in the Western Cape and elsewhere across the country. Now this as it celebrates its 113th birthday. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa will also deliver his January 8th statement at the Mandela Park Stadium in Khayelitsha tomorrow. So to talk to us more about the ANC, its renewal plans and how all of this aligns with its founding ideals, policies and principles, including of course international relations, we're joined virtually now by Lindiwe Zulu, who is a member of the ANC's National Executive Committee. Zulu, good morning and thanks so much for speaking to us here on Morning Live.
Good morning and thank you very much for the opportunity. Happy New Year to you, to Leanne and your entire team, and wishing you the best in 2025.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, all the same to you and happy birthday to the African National Congress. Now, speaking of, the ANC has been facing, quite a bit of headwinds, especially of late, given that we've just come out of an election year with dwindling electoral support, which of course has been on the cards for a while. It's facing internal divisions. There are scandals of corruption, public dissatisfaction. How would you assess the current state of the party as it celebrates its 113th anniversary?
Thank you very much, Sakina. As you elaborate or eloquently tell us about the challenges that we are facing, may I also tell you that there's the other side of the coin. There is a bunch of people, of comrades, who have always been committed to ensuring that the ANC lives and the ANC serves the people of South Africa. However, in that journey, as we all know, we've come across all the things that you have so eloquently described. What the ANC is right now, rightfully you say it's a program of renewal. Unfortunately for us, I think that we took too long to realize some of the internal problems and challenges that we are talking about. But we think what is important is recognizing those problems and doing something about it. And also appreciating that in the process of doing so, unfortunately, it won't be like a magic wand. You just strike it and everything goes right. So we are here in the Western Cape simply because we want, one, to continue the journey, which must be shortened, by the way, a journey of creating a better life for the majority of South Africans. And therefore, the Western Cape is but one of those provinces that we need to focus on. As you rightfully said, we lost some electoral numbers. We want to regain those numbers. And the only way we can gain them, one, is to make sure that we ourselves correct those problems and correct the mistakes that we have made, but also connect more and better to our communities.
So in practical terms, what does that mean? What steps will the ANC be taking to regain the trust of the electorate? Because that dwindling electoral support in part is due to a lack of trust with the electorate at this point. And how are you going to regain that trust of the voters and restore the party's credibility?
Let us start with service delivery, because I think that most of our people would not distrust the ANC if the service delivery, particularly through the government, because we have been part of government in the 30 years, we have been making the decisions, we've been making the policy decisions, we have been trying to implement the constitution, we have been trying to strengthen the institutions of governance and government. So that's where we need to start, by ensuring that cadres of the African National Congress who are in government are true to those institutions of governance. They have the capacity to do so. They also have to make sure that the finances in those departments, the money is spent on where the money is supposed to go to. Let me just quickly say, Sakina, having been in government myself, I know that many a times it's thrown on the minister or the deputy minister or the politician to say that you're not spending most of the money. What the ANC and those in government need to do is to focus on the officials who are performing those tasks and make sure that they do the right thing, because every year the government makes annual plans. Those plans must be plans that are related to serving the people and not serving anybody else. For us to do that, it means we must focus on local government. By the way, we've already said it, that we put a lot of emphasis on the national and provincial, and we lost a little bit of focus on the local government where service delivery is. We need to focus more on service delivery. And of course, we are in a government of national unity. It means that the president must make sure that all those ministers are accountable in service delivery. That's what our people want. More than anything else, they want water, electricity, education, health, and all. That's what they want.
So if we look at the state of our municipalities, and quite correctly you point out, the ANC wanting to place more emphasis on what's happening at local government level. To be fair, though, the ANC has been saying this for the longest time. The ANC has been saying for the longest time, Ms. Zulu, that they want to deploy their best cadres to a local government level because that is the coalface of service delivery. It hasn't happened, though. And if we look at the state of municipalities the country over, it paints a very grim picture. If you look at the governance at local government level, it is a mess. For the most part, the municipalities are teetering on the brink of collapse in most instances. So again, how do you convince the electorate that you actually are able to change the situation?
Absolutely. 30 years of democracy might seem to be a very long time, but 30 years of democracy, of changing a very long period of time where majority of Black people were left out. I know that sometimes people say we're singing a song, but this is fact. 30 years of democracy and getting to have the right people in the right places, it has taken us longer than is necessary. And the challenge here, Sakina, is our own system, where we end up saying the one who is the chairperson of a branch or the one who is the chairperson of the region should be the one who becomes a mayor and all that. One of the things that one of the decisions taken by the ANC was, we are now going to interview people ourselves for those positions, ensuring that those positions are taken by people who have the capacity. I must say we're not yet there, but I think I have been personally involved in those interviews, and sometimes those interviews have been a disaster in terms of the region or any structure deciding these are the 3 or 4 names that you are giving us. I can assure the viewers here that that process is yielding results. Very unfortunate, as I say, that we started by ensuring that your Lindiwe Zulus and all others are at national level and provincial level, and we open the space. We are going to do that, continue selecting the right people, not just a deployment of just because you served so many years in the African National Congress. And if you don't have the qualifications, you don't have them. Simple and straightforward. Times of today, and the world is moving too fast for us. The demands of our people are moving very fast. Therefore, we need to do the catch-up and be able to select the right people. The second issue is to make sure that those members of the branches who live in the communities, who are closer to the communities, they must not be involved in this nonsense of people selecting people who are close to them, not realizing, when you go to council, you've got to be able to know what is council, how does it operate, how does it function. You've got to be able to know how are the finances handled. By the way, it is this reason that you have most of the provinces going through training programs, getting people to be taken to different countries to be taught how government is done. We are done with the selection through I know comrade way to Simazi. We are done with that because people are tired of that. But also, we are pleading with our communities to also be active in it, so that when they don't feel comfortable with somebody, it must be clear that they don't want that person, but it must also not be a mixture of politics. It must be a mixture of getting the best to do the job for the African National Congress, but more than the African National Congress, it is about serving the communities.
And Ms. Zulu, you know, there's so much to talk about, but I just want to brush over a few other issues as well. The ANC's ideological direction. This, of course, has always been a topic of debate, the broad church, and it's come into stark focus of late again, with some arguing, some of your alliance partners arguing that the party has perhaps strayed from its original mandate of fighting for social justice, economic transformation, and for the poor in particular. How do you respond to these criticisms? And also, like your former DSG, the late Jesse Duarte, and others have highlighted the fact that the ANC has abandoned minorities in South Africa. Given that you're in the Western Cape for this January 8th statement, talk to those issues and the ANC's ideological position with regard to them.
Sakina, the ideology or the approach of the African National Congress has not changed. But I must also say that what happens is the more we face the challenges, sometimes you have a little bit of those that end up not following the true values of the African National Congress. That's a discussion for another day. But this issue of the national question is very critical, because we cannot be saying that South Africa belongs to to everyone who lives in it, and we cannot be saying that it's our responsibility. When we say we lead, we must lead for real. So when you talk about the national question and you talk about minorities, it is something that the African National Congress, and in particular the NEC, keeps on referring to all the time. But it's one thing to talk about it and another to have it done on the ground. Unfortunately for us, the national question is something that's going to be with us for a very long time. But the principle of the African National Congress is that of inclusion, is that of ensuring actually that those communities who we call minorities, which is very unfortunate, also even the word, for me, it's not a word that I'm very comfortable with. It is the responsibility of the African National Congress to make sure that everybody feels comfortable in the ANC. You know, we have a racial issue of having very few, if any, white people joining the African National Congress, contributing towards betterment of the ANC and the country as a whole. And now we are in the Western Cape. Historically, we know that in the Western Cape, many of the people we are talking about have always been at the forefront of the struggle against apartheid, against colonialism, against everything that is negative for South Africa. But somewhere along the line, the conflicts and internal dynamics of the ANC between what you call the minority and black people in the Western Cape, there was a conflict that brewed and brewed until such time that we even lost the power in the Western Cape. We cannot afford that. And having been in the communities and seen how the majority of those people across the board, I call them black, if you go to the community, to Khayelitsha, to Gugulethu, to every area, it is so to see the conditions of our people. Therefore, the task of the ANC is to unite the people of South Africa across the board, and not only unite them for the sake of uniting them. It is to unite the people of South Africa so that we find solutions to the challenges we're facing, particularly, Sakina, because we are in a global world that's moving too fast, that needs us to be innovative and be creative in finding solutions. Our people are still struggling. It's our task to create a conducive environment and turn the situation around.
Just about out of time, but I have to ask you about specific steps that the ANC is taking to address the challenges facing young South Africans, Ms. Zulu. The high unemployment rates among the youth, the lack of access to quality education. These are non-negotiables. So what is the ANC's response to this particular problem in its current facet?
Thank you very much. As you are aware, we must not forget about the past, though. And we must not forget about the past because the past tells us that we had 9 different countries and 9 different education systems that we had to put together and make sure that there is one system. Yes, that system is not necessarily yielding the kind of results we want because those that are being churned out by the system are being rejected, many of them by the jobs that we need for today. We need to change that. We've said that we need to change that. Sakina, we are having an ANC Lekgotla immediately after this, and we have said that we must really put those issues on the table so that we come up with better solutions. But I must say, what we have been able to do to change the situation is a lot, but it is not enough. It means that there are specific areas which we must make more emphasis on: education, health, social welfare. Those are the issues. But when all is said and done, we must also mobilize our communities to be able for themselves to make the right decisions and get up when they see that things are not going right at the right time and not wait for the time of the elections. The ANC itself is saying we must not wait for elections to connect to our communities. We must do that at all times.
Ms. Lindiwe Zulu, thanks so much for your time. And chairperson for the ANC Subcommittee on International Relations, a member of the ANC's National Executive Committee, talking to us about the ANC's journey since it was formed 113 years ago in 1912.